Hello everyone, welcome to another video of learning the Polish grammar series. And today we are going to be talking about the accusative case, so case number 4. Okay, we have already done nominative, genitive, dative, or dative, I'm still not sure. And today we have accusative, which is probably the last a bit confusing case in terms of the usage, because both, I mean, all of the nominative, genitive, dative, and accusative can somewhat share the questions, or you can get kind of confused when do you use each of them. But yeah, this might be the last one that is tough in terms of usage or function, but fortunately the endings and how do you construct the case will be a lot simpler than the previous ones. And also fortunately we have covered a lot of the accusative case just by chance, by discussing the previous cases. So you should be kind of familiar or just quickly get this case as well. And in the next videos, the last 3 remaining cases should be simpler to understand, at least when it comes to the usage. Okay? So it should go on pretty smoothly from now on. Okay, so the accusative case, known in Polish as Biernik, that's the name, primarily identifies the direct object of a verb. It is the person or a thing that directly receives the action. So it answers the questions such as kogo, co, or whom, what. Okay? So that's the kind of confusing part, is that it takes the what question from nominative, but whom question from genitive. Okay? But it marks the entity being directly acted upon. So I have already used this simple formula X action Y in previous videos, so I hope you get it. So it's basically this case right now, okay? So in last video we were talking about dative case, and the dative dative is used when discussing the Z in this formula, or Z, okay? So basically someone performs the action on something that is being given to something else, okay? Okay, so now in today's video, the accusative case is basically our why, okay? So someone does some action on why. So for example, let's break it down. Sentence: Piotr czyta książkę. Piotr is reading a book. Okay, so we have two nouns, Piotr and książkę, book. Okay, Piotr and book are our two nouns, and the verb is reading. So if we were to use our handy dandy little formula, we have X as our Piotr. Okay, it is a Polish name, first name, and it is the subject of the sentence. Therefore, it is in nominative because it just begins the sentence, right? It's the thing that starts the action. So it is just in nominative form, standard. Okay, standard dictionary form. So Piotr is X. Then Piotr performs the action of reading. Piotr czyta. Okay, and then the Y will be the one that receives being read. You can kind of think about it in this way, okay? So someone acts in a certain way on the object or on someone. So Y is our book, and since it receives the action of Piotr, it needs to be in accusative. Okay? Simple X action Y, and Y is in accusative in this case. Okay? So subject is in nominative and it's Piotr, and accusative, it's also called as a direct object. It is a general term for well, almost all, I'm pretty sure all languages. And that is the accusative in Polish, okay? Okay. The second sentence. Anna widzi swojego brata. Anna sees her brother. Let's do it in the same fashion. So, we have a Polish name, Anna, okay? Anna. So it is our X, the thing that begins the action. Okay, the action is sees, widzi, okay? So X is Anna, action is sees, and then the Y, the thing that is being seen, is her brother, okay? Anna sees her brother, okay? So subject in nominative is Anna, and the direct object in accusative is her brother, swojego brata. Important to note, it's both the noun and the adjective, okay? Since adjectives are used to describe the nouns, it just, the adjective is also in accusative and it just copies the form of the noun it describes, okay? Okay. So I hope it makes sense. Simple X action Y, and in this case, Y needs to be in accusative. Okay. We will talk about some common pitfalls and misconceptions at the end of the video. So for now, it's just this formula, okay? So key uses of the accusative case. And there are three main contexts. So first of all, the thing that we have already discussed, the direct object of a verb, the most common function, and most transitive verbs, meaning the verbs that take an object, require the accusative. So for example, to have. Well, usually you use the verb to have to indicate that someone has something. Okay? So it is, it uses the same formula in that particular case, okay? It is someone has something, okay? So X action Y. So it is pretty clear. The same thing for some other verbs. For example, to see. Someone sees something. To read. Someone reads something. To love. Someone loves someone or something. To buy. Someone buys something. Okay? And if you wanted to add the dative case, you can also add... let's bring this dude right here just to remind you. Y to Z. Okay? We have discussed this in the last video. So, for example, let's go with to buy. To buy is the perfect example for this one. So, someone buys something. But if you wanted to express that you buy something for someone else, that's when you can also bring additionally the dative case, okay? So I buy bread for or present for my mom. I buy present for my mom, okay? So then we would have nominative I buy present in accusative and for my mom in dative or dative, okay? Okay, I hope it makes sense. Then we have eat, because someone eats something, and to know a place or a person, because someone knows someone, okay? Or someone knows the place, okay? So again, X action Y, X action Y, X action Y, in a nutshell, is accusative. Y is the accusative, okay. The second thing is motion and direction with prepositions. So there was a bit of a confusion in... was it in the last video? Or in genitive, actually, maybe? That when you use... No, the last video. That in English, to can be also used as a... not only as a... to signify the recipient of the action, but also the direction. So, in Polish, for direction, we would use the accusative, mostly. Okay? It does depend on the preposition itself a little bit, but the accusative is used with prepositions to indicate movement towards, into, or through a destination, okay? This contrasts with the locative case, which indicates a static location. okay? And locative case is the one that is remaining, okay? We will discuss it in later videos. But yes, a general movement, that means dynamic movement, someone going towards something, is accusative. And locative will be to indicate that just something is staying in a particular place, okay? Someone is just laying on the bed, standing on the table, or whatever else, okay? So for example, prepositions such as to, on to, into, through, across, to get, about, against, na, w, przez, po, o, okay? These are all the prepositions that use the accusative. So I am going to the post office. Again, I am going and going into direction to the post office, okay? We still do not use the dative, okay? Because we are not performing something for the post office. We are going to it, okay? We are not doing something for it. We're just going in the direction. So that is the accusative, not the dative. Important. So idę na pocztę, and pocztę is in accusative. The same going, he is going to the mountains. The same thing. He is not doing anything for the mountains or to the mountains. He's just going to there, right? And so on and so on. So walking through the park, going to the store, asking for directions. Again, you are not doing something for the directions, okay, or for a way. You're just asking about it. That's the kind of sense, I guess, that you can use to remember it. And that's the sense, and that's how it is interpreted in Polish, okay? And the last thing for the accusative case, okay, so we have the direct object, so just our y in x action y, and motion is expressions of time and duration. So the accusative is used to specify certain points in time or how long an action lasts. So for example, days of the week, when you want to say that something happens on particular date. So on Wednesday, I have a meeting. Then you have a preposition w, would be equivalent to on. W środę, and środę is in accusative, okay? I waited for an hour, okay? So yeah, the hour is also in accusative. And I worked the whole day. Pracowałem cały dzień. Okay? It is also in accusative. Okay. So yeah, let's now go into our endings, our famous endings and declension, which, as I told you at the beginning of this video, will be a lot easier for this particular case, okay? So first of all, let's go for our nouns. And for masculine singular, for inanimate objects, so not living things, just objects, there is absolutely no change from nominative. It is just nominative. So for example, table, stół, in accusative is also stół. House, dom is also dom in accusative. Then the change is the same as in genitive, so we can just look at the genitive video. For animate masculine singular nouns, okay, so basically nouns that describe people or animals, okay, then the ending will be a. There will be added or changed to a. Okay, so for example, student. Yes, it describes a person, so it is animate. Student, studenta. Then we have a dog. A dog is a living thing, okay, so it is animate. So pies becomes psa, okay? And that's it. Just a. There is no other options, so for living things, it is a. For all of the other masculine nouns, no change. Boom. Feminine nouns. Feminine singular, okay? For feminine nouns that end with an a, it changes to ę. And that's it. So for example, a woman, kobieta, becomes kobietę. A book, książka, becomes książkę. Okay? And that's it. If it ends with an a, change it to e, boom, you're done. And if the noun ends in a consonant, you just do nothing. So not in accusative is also not. Miłość in accusative is also miłość. Great. Neuter singular, there is absolutely no change as well. So a child, dziecko in accusative is also dziecko. Window, okno is also okno in accusative. Okay? And the last thing is our plural nouns. These were all singular. And now for the plural. Okay? So non-masculine personal nouns. Okay? So feminine plural, neuter plural, and masculine plural that are not personal. What are personal nouns? Personal nouns are even more specific than animate. These are only talking about people. Only talking about people, okay? Not living things, but people especially, okay? So, so feminine plural, neuter plural, and all the masculines apart from people, there is no change from nominative. So kot, so masculine noun cat is kot in singular, in plural it's koty, and since cats are not personal, then there is still no change. So koty is koty in accusative. Then we have women, okay, so feminine plural, it stays the same. Okna, which is neuter plural, stays the same in accusative, okay? And the only thing that somehow changes is the masculine personal plural, okay? So nouns that describe persons, such as student, doctor, dad, grandfather, firefighter, captain, these kind of things, occupations or family connections, this type of nouns, okay? So they have changes exactly the same as genitive plural. So it's probably just the best to remember the genitive plural of these nouns and just use them accordingly. Or just go back to that video about genitive, okay? Okay. So for example, studenci becomes studentów. Or lekarze becomes lekarzy. Okay? So, in many cases, there is a simple change or there is no change at all. Okay? In majority cases, I guess there is no change. Or some simple ones. There is only possible a or only eon. There is no this or that that you have to remember, okay? So accusative seems pretty good, okay? For at least in that context. And for the adjective. For the adjective endings, the simplicity continues, fortunately. So, masculine or adjectives that describe masculine nouns. Okay? For inanimate, so we have exactly the same distinction as for nouns, okay? Because, well, adjectives are connected are used to describe the nouns, so it kind of makes sense that they are used in the same vein, I guess. So, for nouns that are inanimate, there is no change. The adjective remains the same. So there is no change for the noun, there is no change for the adjective. Makes sense. For animate, so personal or person or animal, okay? The ending becomes ego. So there is a change for the noun and there is change for the adjective. Okay? So dobry pies becomes dobrego psa. Good dog, okay? Dobry pies, dobrego psa. So both things change. Great. Feminine singular, the ending is always on, okay? And there is one caveat that you might forget about. So for nouns that end with an a, that's pretty much kind of expected because the noun changes as well, okay? So for example, dobra, we'll stick with our adjective meaning good, okay? Dobra książka becomes dobrą książkę. So since książka changes to książkę, it makes sense that the adjective also changes from dobra to dobrą. But be careful because, for example, night, which is also a feminine noun, does not change. There was a distinction for nouns earlier that if they end in a consonant, there is no change. But adjective always changes, okay? And that's why a good night, dobranoc, changes to dobrą noc, for example, okay? Okay. So be careful for that one. That there is no change for the noun, but there is for the adjective here. So for every feminine, the adjective has to be ending with on. Okay? And for adjective describing neuter nouns, there is no change as well. Boom. I mean, as well as for masculine inanimate, okay? So there is no change. So neuter, literally nothing changes for neuter singular nouns or adjectives. Great. For plurals, the same distinction as in for nouns. So non-masculine, so feminine plurals, neuter plurals, and masculine non-personal plurals, there is no change. Okay? Okay. And for only the plurals that are masculine personal, so describing the people, there is a change ich or ich, and it solely depends on the adjective. If adjective in its nominative form ends with the y, you use the first one. If it ends with the I, use the second one, okay? So for example, since adjective good is dobry, 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 okay? Then we use the first one. Dobrzy studenci becomes dobrych studentów. Dobrych studentów. Okay? Okay. So that's it about the endings and changes and everything, okay, and the function. So as I told you, this one should be a bit more straightforward after we've dealt through the long introduction to genitive and last video about dative, okay? And the last thing is some common mistakes and pitfalls regarding or relating to other cases and other stuff. So the genitive negation, this is the thing that you have to be absolutely, I guess, on the lookout for. So this is a super crucial rule. And of course, if we have a negated sentence, you should remember this from the video about genitive. When you have this formula that X performs the action on Y, but the action is negated, okay, using our Polish verb nie, which means no or not, then the Y will not be in accusative, but in genitive, okay? So, incorrect sentence that I don't like winter, nie lubię zimę. Zimę is in accusative and it is not correct. It follows this formula because I don't like winter, but since we have negation, don't like, Y has to be in genitive, okay? So the correct sentence is nie lubię zimy. Nie lubię zimy, okay? Other example, I have a dog, mam psa, and in this case, psa is the accusative form of the dog, but in negative genitive, or like a negative sentence that you do not have a dog, nie mam psa, we use the genitive form, which is exactly the same, okay? But it is not always the case. For example, mam samochód, which means I have a car. If we were to negate this sentence, we would have to say nie mam samochodu. Ooh, so the ending changes, okay? So you have to know this rule. For positive sentences, Y is accusative. For negative, Y is genitive. Okay? Okay. Then there is confusing masculine animate and inanimate. Forgetting to change masculine animate nouns is a frequent error. So for example, incorrect is widzę kot. Okay. Since cat is living thing, we have to look up and scroll over here. It is not an object, so, well, no, we have to perform some change, and it is this one, animate noun, which talks about person or animal. The change is adding the a. So it is not widzę kot, widzę kota. I see a cat. Widzę kota. Okay? A or a is added at the end because cat is masculine and it is animate. Okay? Okay. The third one, motion versus location, using the wrong case with prepositions like w or w and na. Okay? So this will also, I guess I will highlight this one also at the end of the locative video. But basically what I have already told you. If you describe the motion or going towards somewhere, okay? Idę w góry. I am going to the mountains, so I am going there, okay? Then you use the accusative. W góry is accusative, okay? Mountains are in accusative here. But if you want to say that I am in the mountains, that means that your location is there. I'm just in there. I'm just there. I'm not going anywhere. I am there. Okay? Jestem w górach. And then mountains are in locative. Okay? And the last one is forgetting adjective agreement, which you have to, I guess, start getting used to. And it is a pretty simple rule, fortunately, is the adjective must always match the noun's case. And that is always the case, okay? Well, case, you know what I mean. The adjectives are the part of the speech that are used to describe the nouns. Therefore, they are just getting the same case as the noun, okay? You can just focus on the noun first and focus on this structure. And then if you figure out that, okay, why needs to be in accusative, then if you want to put some adjective describing why, it will have the same case as why, okay? I am reading an interesting book. I, okay, am reading a book. Okay, so it is that formula, so X action Y, so book needs to be in accusative. Okay, so what if I wanted to say that I am reading interesting book? Well, since Y is in accusative, that means interesting also has to be in accusative. There you go. That's how you can figure it out, okay? So, adjective follows the noun's case, okay? Okay, so that's it about the accusative case. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.